if the question is on the social security, there are 4 aspects of the social security. 1, health. 2, insurance and pension. 3, social assistance. And 4th, employment. In this particular question, in GS3, remember, in majority of the question, you try to start with data. One simple introduction you can give. Indian Constitution envisions a welfare state under Article 38. Okay, this is somewhat unique introduction, and then you give the data. Page 1 from 1991 to 2000. Now you can easily guess, as we were facing the economic crisis during that time. Okay? So it represented marked slowdown due to economic crisis. Okay, it was around 3%. So examine the pattern and trend of public expenditure on social services in post-reform period in India. To what extent this been in consonance with achieving the objective of inclusive growth? Yes. What are the demands of this question? Okay. So what do you mean by examine? Yes. Which formula do we apply? Okay. 60-40. Okay, or 50-50, you say. Other than that, 50-50. Okay. Then, to what extent? So what do you do for to what extent? Yes, which formula do we apply? Yes. Have we achieved the inclusive growth? Have we? 70-30 is only when your issues or the counter argument has to give very less weightage. But when the demand is to analyze, examine, to what extent, in such cases, follow 60-40. Okay? So this first, now start with what will be the introduction in this? What is the core theme of this question?
Objective of inclusive.
Yes. So it is about the social services, public expenditure on social services. Okay. So what will be the introduction? Yes. Is it a core theme, inclusive growth?
No.
Then
How welfare is established?
in this particular question, in GS3, remember, in majority of the question, you try to start with data. Okay. As far as agriculture and economics is concerned, either data or definition. If the question is specifically on the inclusive growth, you can start with the definition, otherwise you continue with the data. Okay. So here, just to make it, what is, can you tell me the recent data? Yes. Does anyone know, can we write LPG reform? Yes, but again, that won't hit the core of the, or the core theme of the question. The core theme of the question is public expenditure on social services. And inclusive growth also is the second part of the question. Yes. Does anyone have the data with respect to India's expenditure on social services? In absolute term, obviously it will increase. सबका मिला के Yes, Pranay, you can start with Financial Commission report. No, it is not 2% of the GDP, Prachi. It's way more than 2%. Okay. So data will come into body. So why we are writing in intro? Because in body we have the data with respect to the specific sectors of the social services. we have the data on education, health. Okay, so we have a lot of data. Yes. GDP growth to be 7% by 2025 World Bank. No, we can't give this. Yes. You are saying something.
Health expenditure 1990 6%, 2.5%. Mostly
But health expenditure अभी 1.9% है 24 में. I don't know. See, if suppose a question comes on the social security, ठीक है? Yes, Niti Aayog data you can put. So one simple introduction you can give. कि Indian Constitution envisions a welfare state under article. What is the article? 38. Be more specific, na? In DPSP also. So Indian Constitution envisions a welfare state under Article 38. Okay, this is somewhat unique introduction, and then you give the data. Okay? So as per economic survey, the expenditure on the social service is 21 lakh crore in FY 2023 from 9 lakh crore in FY 16. ठीक है? Then you come to the first demand, pattern and trend of post 1991 reforms. Again, can we guess it to be around 20% of the GDP as per economic survey if we know the rough percentage of all the sectors? So it is not 20% of the GDP, it is around 8% of the GDP. ठीक है? So it is about 8% of the GDP. Don't worry, you will know the data. This is again in broader theme. So you will have the data with respect to the broader themes like social security, expenditure on health, education, rural development, infrastructure. All those data you will be having when you will be actually appearing for the mains. Okay? So pattern and trend. So now understand this. So when they ask you with respect to the evolution, okay, in such cases, जैसे for example, if they ask you generally in modern history, they ask this kind of question, highlight the evolution of the Indian National Congress or Indian freedom struggle under leadership of Gandhi. Okay, similarly here they asked you evolution of the public expenditure on social sector post 1991 period. So basically when you have to highlight the history or the evolution of it, try to divide it into the phases. Okay, so here our points will be first phase 1 from 1991 to 2000. Now you can easily guess, as we were facing the economic crisis during that time. Okay? So it represented marked slowdown due to economic crisis. Okay. And you know कि presently it is 8%. Okay, so during that time you could have talked कि it was lesser than 5%. Okay, it was around 2%, 3%. 3% of GDP. Okay, and if you know the specific sector, there also you can give the data. For example, healthcare less than 1% of GDP. Okay, Then comes phase 2, 2000 to 2010. Okay? So this led to the increase in the social sector spending. Why? Because of this 1991 to 2000 period was the economic crisis. Then 2000 to 2010 will be economic stability. Okay? 2010 to 2020 we witness boom. Okay? Yes, because they have asked post LPG reforms only. Okay? So in phase 2, reprioritization of social sector spending due to economic stability. And then if you don't have the data, you give the example. So what were the major schemes during that time? MG Narega. Yes. You have Right to Education Act. What else? Yes. What else you can write? National Health Mission. See, if the question is on the social security, there are 4 aspects of the social security. National Food Security Act came in 2013. Okay? So remember these 4 aspects. One, health. Second, insurance and pension. Third, social assistance. Okay. And fourth, employment. Okay, if you want, you can create education also. So social assistance is basically for the vulnerable sections, for women, वगैरह. Okay. This classification you remember. Then the phase 3. So 2010 to 2020. So what happened during this phase 3? Yes. Yes. Economic boom leading to further increase into the spending. But during this time, though the spending increased in absolute terms, in terms of the percentage, it stagnated. Okay, because the spending didn't increase in line with the GDP growth. Okay, if GDP growth was of 8%, then increase in social security spending was only 2%. Okay, so increase in absolute terms, but stagnated with respect to the percentage of GDP. Okay? So it increased from only 5% in 2008 to 7%, 7.7% to in 2020. This is as per RBI. Okay? Now, what was the first thing that I told you to get good marks in GS3 you need What was the first thing? Graph. So now you have the data with respect to the spending in 1990. It was around 3%. Presently it is around 8%. Okay? You draw the graph, not there. Make sure that you are taking a very little space for the graph. Actually, I should have drawn here. Yeah. Not there, it should be a bit below. But okay. So what was? It is 1990, 2000, 2010, 2020. So from 3%, 2004 to 5, 10 stagnated, and around 7, and presently 8. Try to do as much detailing as possible in your graphs. Okay? So this is social spending. Thus, here below it, if you want, you can show the percentage of spending on the health. This is on health, and this is on education. Okay? So for education, you need around 6%. So if you want, you can show this data as well. It's given in the model answer, you can refer it later on as well. Okay? So then phase 4. So here also you give the example. What were the prominent example during that period? Yes? Yes, National Food Security Act. What was the next one? Jan Dhan Yojana. Okay? You mentioned Jam Trinity. That's it. See how content heavy your answers are becoming. Awas Yojana also, yes, you can write. Definitely. Okay? Then fourth,
New education.
yes, present. What is the present status? Yes. Swachh Bharat also, yes, you can write. Yes, what is the present status? Focus has shifted towards the rights-based approach. Yes, focus on rights-based approach. Example, Ayushman Bharat. Okay? Now, remember this important fact. So, however, as you have to examine, we have to provide the counter argument as well. However, simply you write the fact as per Niti Aayog. The social sector spending is lagging behind by around 5.7%. Social sector spending is lagging behind by around 5.5% against Niti Aayog target of 14%. So Niti Aayog, remember this important fact. Niti Aayog has kept the target of spending on social sector to around 14%. Okay. Secondly, when you have to highlight the issue with respect to the public expenditure on health, etc. So first you give the point with respect to the our own targets. Okay, India always lag behind its targets. Okay, that's in our very DNA. The second thing, as we are lagging behind our own expectation, obviously we will be lagging behind the global trends. Okay. Second point, behind global trend. A simple fact you can write, India spends least among the BRICS countries. Yes. That's it. Okay. So now we have multiple facts, we have examples, we have used a graph. And the next most important thing is, if the question has two parts, जैसे this particular question has two parts, right? You have to always make sure कि your first part is ending on the first page itself. Yes, HDI index ranking also you can quote. Perfect. So India's SDI ranking is I think 134 or 132. 134 in 2023. Yes. Okay. So the point that I was talking about is that when if the question has two separate parts, always make sure that your first part has to be finished on the first page itself. It should not go on the second page. That is the most fundamental aspect of the space management. Okay? Then come to the second, to what extent this has been in consonance with achieving objective of inclusive growth. A simple heading, social sector spending and inclusive growth. Okay? So will you write the points? Will you write into point format or will you draw a table? Because see, the demand is to what extent. That means you have to highlight the issues as well. Okay, and our formula is when you are highlighting the issue, we have to provide the way forward. So on the one single page, you have to cover the achievements, the issues, and the way forward. Okay, and then conclusion. So will it be possible in point format? So best way is we'll use the table. So here you simply write achievements, challenges. So what is the biggest achievement that we have? Yes. What is the biggest achievement? Poverty. What is the data? As per UN. Poverty. 415 million people came out of poverty. This is the data by the UN. Second, to talk about the education. So what is the enrollment ratio in education? Yes. Yes. So education, gross enrollment ratio in of girls in secondary education increased to 81% from 77% in 2014. Then what is the next with respect to health? The increase in life expectancy, right? So see, with respect to the expenditure on health also, the health expenditure increased with CAGR, compound annual growth rate of around 15%. ठीक है? In last decade. So despite health expenditure, out of pocket expenditure reduced to 30%, yes. Gross enrollment ratio in primary education 100%, yes, perfect. Yes, as per Pratham, good. So here as you are giving the data, mention the source.
ranking also and
Yes, you can give the ranking also. It has to be. Yes, you can write the short form like the CAGR. ठीक है? So health हो गया, education हो गया. Then what else? What is the biggest achievement of the present government? Jan Dhan Yojana. How many accounts have opened under Jan Dhan Yojana? 53 crores. Jan Dhan. And till now government has transferred around 27 lakh crore under the DBT. Okay, remember this fact, and this has saved around 9 lakh crore for the government. Okay, if you read the governance notes of our SMASH, you will find this data. Okay, Jan Dhan 53 crore accounts open. What is the source of this data? Banking related. Who will give the banking related data? Mention RBI. Yes. Swachh Bharat Mission also, yes, you can give. Okay. ठीक है? Then how many points are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sufficient. Then challenges. What are the challenges? As per the Niti Aayog multi-dimensional poverty index, the poverty rate is still around, yes, 25%. Niti Aayog multi-dimensional poverty index 2023. ठीक है? 25. What else? अब हेल्थ हो गया, एजुकेशन हो गया, पॉवर्टी हो गया, फाइनेंशियल हो गया.
Dropout rates of
What was the important aspect that I had given? इनमें से बचा कौन सा?
social assistance, employment and insurance. Insurance and
Who will give the point with respect to the employment? High unemployment, right? So see, now that is a beginner level. He will simply write unemployment and he will give the data. You never write simply unemployment. Always write along with unemployment. What is the biggest issue in agriculture employment? What is that called? RBI data, yes. Underemployment, right? So the issue of unemployment and underemployment. Then you give the data. Which source will you use for the data on unemployment? Yes, PLFS data. As per PLFS, the youth unemployment is around, yes, 22%. Okay. What else? Health education. What is the target for the, yes, PLFS, very good. Feminization of agriculture, rural distressed also, yes, you can mention if you have the data. But again, with respect to health and education, what is the target with respect to the expenditure on health and education? With respect to education, it is 6%, which is given by National Education Policy. And with respect to the health, it is 2.5% given by, ये नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी है तो ये नेशनल हेल्थ पॉलिसी है, ठीक है. हेल्थ 1.9%, which is less than 2.5% recommended by National Health Policy 2017. Education, it is less than 6% mandated by NEP 2020. Is it clear? And now you give the brief way forward. So what will be the way forward? Again, the one, unemployment after graduation, yes. Learning poverty also, yes, you can mention. Okay, see, that's what I am telling ki GS3, the questions are on very broader topics. You will never face the issue with respect to content. ठीक है, कल चैट बॉक्स सुना था, किसी को एक पास पॉइंट्स नहीं थे. ठीक है, आज मेरे को आई एम नॉट एबल टू रीड ऑल्सो. So that's why having a very specific points and having a very substantive substantiation using the data is very important in GS3. ठीक है, that is the thing. So that's why compartmentalization of the content is very important in GS3. So theme identify करो, based upon that theme prepare the points. ठीक है. So what will be the way forward? Yes. Again, the one aspect that I told with respect to the answer writing in GS3 is the use of the committees. So committees you will be using in GS3. Yes. So what committees will you be using? What will be the committees or commissions or reports? ठीक है. So always remember कि way forward में one with respect to employment का point देना ही है. ठीक है. Labor intensive growth. This can be done by strengthening. Yes, that also you can mention. So labor intensive growth by strengthening your PLI scheme. And this is suggested by economic survey. ठीक है. Yes. Second is with respect to the improving social sector indicators. Okay. Or you can mention capability approach of SANE. ठीक है. So capability approach as in Amartya Sen, yes. Okay, so capability approach as in he talked about improving health and education outcomes. So you make two headings: health, education. So how you can improve health? Yes. So improving health infrastructure, Niti Aayog has given one suggestion, that is the PPP model in district public hospitals. ठीक है. So PPP suggested by Niti Aayog. What is the biggest solution with respect to the education in India?
TMC schools. TMC schools.
PM Shri. स्कूल को भी नाम दे दिया उन्होंने.
KB schools are collaborated in a way and TMC.
ठीक है. Yes, but rather than that, you mention vocational education.
Yes.
ठीक है. Third aspect, you can bring gender inclusive growth. So you can mention with respect to the gender inclusive growth, what way forward will you be giving? Yes,
Enhancing female labor participation.
a simple way. Women in STEM.
Yes.
ठीक है. And इसका example you have the PM Kiran scheme. ठीक है. Now, one case study that we discussed yesterday जो यहाँ पे भी possible है. What was that case study? One case study we discussed of conditional cash transfer. That is also one way, na? Universal basic income or universal healthcare. So if you want to give universal healthcare example, you give of Scandinavian countries. Yeah, you had one example. Brazil's Basilia is Familia. Conditional cash transfer scheme. And then you provide the way forward. How will you provide the way forward? Yes. Gubbi, RBI, NABARD, yes, you can mention. Mitigating effects of the Green Revolution 4.0 on employment, yes. Perfect, good points. Then conclusion, how will you conclude? Yes. So the conclusion in GS3 are very easy. Just remember few of the keywords. Viksit Bharat 2047, $5 trillion economy, Atmanirbhar Bharat. If the question is with respect to the innovation or with respect to the IPR, etc., in that case, India has a knowledge economy. Okay, by 2047 only. Or you can mention the constitutional vision of egalitarian and progressive nation. Yes, सबका साथ सबका विकास. विश्वगुरु ही ना यार. Then Sarvodaya through Antodaya, for that is basically for the this poverty related questions. Yes, social, political, economic, democracy. Rather than that, you mention trinity of social, political, economic empowerment. Okay. And one more is India's Panchamrit targets, okay, in environment. Then you have the SDGs. Okay. So here, which one will you use? Which SDG? But for inclusive growth, you will have all the SDGs. You have SDG 5 for women, that is also part of inclusive growth. Yes, you have on education, you have on health. At this point, this is very important. Implementing the Social Security Code 2020. Is essential in order to achieve the vision of सबका साथ सबका विकास. ठीक है. Okay. So we are supporting labor intensive growth here. No, you support labor intensive growth everywhere, Ashish. ठीक है. So even when you talk about the technology driven growth, there also you have to highlight the issue of the technology driven growth, replacing the jobs. ठीक है.